Welcome to the Realty Plus Real Talk series, where we talk to industry experts for their honest views and opinions. And it is our pleasure today to have with us Mr. Srinivasan Gopalan, Chairman, Unitern Advisors, and Mr. Navin Dhanuka, MD and CEO, Unitern Advisors Private Limited. A very warm welcome to you, Mr. Gopalan and Mr. Dhanuka.
Thank you. Thank you,
Sapna.
So, Mr. Gopalan, let me start with you. Unitern Advisors started about 18 months ago. So, what was the core idea behind this, entire endeavor and the establishment of Unitern Advisors?
So we started 20 months back. So 2 months more. We are older than 18 months. And the object, see, my entire life, last 15 years, I've been in real estate. So I understand the pain points of real estate. Sometimes it is the capital. Sometimes it is the availability of raw materials. You can see that happening right now, right? The costs have just gone up significantly. And there are reports that some of the developers want to stop construction. The third one is sales. Sales has been a perennial problem. When it is good, it is very good. And when it is bad, it is very bad. So the objective of forming Unitern was primarily to cater to the entire value chain of real estate, of a real estate developer, right from identifying land, forging joint ventures or joint development agreements. Then comes approvals. We are not into approvals because we don't understand that. Identifying what is to be made, which product, whether it's a residential or plotted development or commercial. So the best fit. Then comes the launch of these projects. Then comes working capital need and financial need, and then handing it over construction and then handing it over to the society. So we are currently, our aim was to be in this entire value segment. And in 20 months' time, I'm happy that we have reached a stage where, other than approvals, we are taking care of the entire spectrum of real estate, including the advisory. So advisory happens to be our entry into a company. We do a medical checkup of the company, identify all the problems and try and resolve issues. So whether it is a healthy company, it will have different type of issues. If it's a medium company, it will have different type. And if it's an unhealthy company, it will have different type of issues. So our aim is to solve all of these, and not through sourcing. It will be from our balance sheet or through balance sheets where we are strategically tied up with through equity participation. So it is not going to be that you ask me a problem, I will go search for some 10 people and provide it to you. So it will have in-house expertise to do all of this. So that was the objective, and we are getting there.
Okay, that's fantastic. So end-to-end solutions for a developer, that is what the aim of Unitern Advisors is. Mr. Dhanuka, Mr. Gopalan mentioned about various pain points that the developers have. In the present scenario, what do you think are the critical, the key challenges or the most critical challenges that a real estate developer faces?
If we go for last 5 years and then we'll come back to the current problems. Last 5 years, if you look at India as a whole, in 2016, we had the GST, RERA, and then Demon coming in. All those created certain kind of a blip or stoppage in the growth factor of the real estate at that point of time. GST had its own set of complications and which caused. If we look at, since we are sitting out of Bangalore, if we look at Bangalore per se, in addition to the three problems we spoke, there were other issues like we had a TDR issue which started in 2014 and it continues to exist. There is no TDR in the market, and the projects which were taken on base of TDR, they saw serious value erosion. Either they were still not completed or they had to complete without TDR having losses. There was an NGT issue which stuck for more than 3 to 4 years. We had kind of an unstable government for almost, there were 2 times government changes, which resulted in quite a bit of delays in all the approval processes. So those real estate having, dependence on a lot of external factors always have such kind of problems, and Karnataka in particular have faced these problems. But if you look at the entire industry per se, there have been perennial problems which have just not got resolved pre-credit, post-credit. We have been talking to the government, but which continues to be there. We talk about, reducing cost in real estate, making it more affordable. But one of the biggest partners in real estate remains the government. For more than a decade, we have been talking about, making the approval processes much more simplified. Today, you have to go through more than 40 regulations clearances before a project can start commencement of development. That remains to be a big challenge, and it takes from months to more than years for those approvals to come, which increases the cost, or the holding cost of the project, and thereby the cost in the hands of the customer by 10 to 20%. Then we have litigation related issues. Today we don't still, though it has been spoken for long, but we still do not have the concept of title insurance in India. Even after the project and large scale projects have started, even after 3 months or at mid stage of the project gets injunction and stayed because of frivolous litigations. Once you have the approval, you have the RERA, unless you have gone completely wrong, the project shouldn't stop. And then either RERA or the lenders do not can take care of it. So that causes real cost in terms of the developers or the customers from that point of view. If you look at today, even availability of land is a very big challenge. There need to be, the Land Reform Act is very, very old, and it needs serious changes or corrections where we can, for example, today 50% of the population of our country lives out of cities. And by 2050, it is assumed to be close to 2.5 billion population living out of the cities. If you look at the FSIs are between 1 to 3, the infrastructure development is not there, FSIs are limited. That is causing today the kind of rates we see out of Bombay. Bangalore rates are going up. If you have to correct it, then we need to have much better FSI laws, development laws like we have in Dubai going up to 17 FSI. We talk about reduction of cost again, but if you look at residential development especially, there is about 16 to 18% of your development cost is GST, where unlike a lot of other industries, you are not getting input credit. So ultimately, developer is not going to pay out of its pocket. It is again going in the hands of the customer. So if we have to go through those challenges like any other industry, I think, and especially real estate is a direct business provider to more than 42 businesses. It is a basic requirement for home buyers. So if we have to meet that, we need to work out how to provide such kind of input product to make the development cost lower. Last but not the least, one of the key components is finance and capital for this industry. Today, after the NBFC crisis since 2018, and we see banks are not allowed to provide money for land or initial capex. B, today even working capital is a challenge for most of the projects. So with that, we need to come out with better policies to provide reasonable cost money to developers to complete the project. Most of the FDI money or opportunistic money which is coming to India today are because of the hedging cost of the currency and various other costs are ranging between 17 to 21%, which makes the project quite unfeasible. So there are a number of issues where we have to look at and solve the problem. But I think the first basic ones are on the approval side, which need to be solved out.
That's right. The most important challenges, like you mentioned, one is the funding, the working capital, the liquid amount of money that is required by the developer. The approvals, as you mentioned correctly, a lot of policy intervention, like you mentioned about FSI and titles, land titles, again, are one of the biggest challenges in the real estate industry. So these are some of the very many critical areas what Mr. Navin Dhanuka has mentioned and where the challenges remain. But let's hope that these challenges are taken care of by the government. But Mr. Gopalan, coming back to you on the residential real estate side, as we had seen, you are quite upbeat on that segment of real estate. And we had also seen during the pandemic, in fact, many industry reports had said that top 7 cities had done steady growth in this segment. Apart from the consumer sentiments, they wanted to have their own home, especially during the pandemic with everyone working from home. So apart from the consumer sentiment, what were the other reasons for this buoyancy that we saw?
So let us talk about it from different markets. First is, I am always upbeat about real estate residential because roti kapda makan. I mean, it is a basic need. Today, it has become roti kapda makan plus one more room for working. So that buoyancy is there, but people want a larger apartment, people want more openness, etc. Because looking at your family for 3 months, we know how important it is to look outside. So Having said that, the interest rates have been a significant push for the consumers to ensure that this is the right time to buy. The second thing is there are articles everywhere where it says that the prices are going to increase. So real estate is a completely sentiment-driven market, and one it is always a FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? So you want to buy now rather than waiting and buying at a higher price. The third and very important thing that has happened, especially in Mumbai, right, is the stamp duty reduction. A 3% reduction in stamp duty, people flocked because the sentiments generally for a consumer is to pay less. And this really, really helped on all high ticket sales. So that helped the customer to make the pricing affordable without the developer losing. And the government really participated very, very well in this. So that also helped in increasing the demand. The fourth, though Navin mentioned a lot of things that the government has not done, I would like to concentrate on two things which the government has done. The Swami Fund has made the money available cheap to developers to complete the project. So now people know that the projects will get completed, and the government is very interested in ensuring that the consumers don't get impacted. I think that is a very, very, very high level protection, though it is not in writing, that a consumer knows कि कुछ भी हो जाए, but I don't think the government will leave me in the lurch. Right, the Swami Fund, and then there was one more scheme called ECLGS where they provided extra working capital to SMEs in order to complete the project. So when the customer buys, he's not buying only for price. He wants to live in that apartment. So these factors have ensured. So some government intervention, some of them the buoyancy from the post-COVID, and also last 5 years there is a lot of pent-up demand. So right from 2016, 17, 18, everything that happened was against real estate. So new projects were not getting launched. So today there is a lot of options also available for customers. More projects are getting launched. And the good thing is a lot of consolidation have happened and people know that my product mera ban ke aayega. I think that is extremely important. Today there is consolidation in Mumbai. You can hardly count 10 developers who are today currently working, which was like 100, maybe even 3 years prior. You look at Bangalore. Bangalore earlier had a lot of small developers. There, everything has got consolidated into a few large listed players coming. So that also added a lot of sentiments for the customers, saying that I'm dealing with a brand. RERA, very good move, which has actually helped, and cases are getting resolved. So it's a fact. All of these are factors. And I go back to roti kapda makan. Mujhe to kharidna hai. I want to buy. Now all of these have ensured that what I buy will get delivered. So all of these factors have helped for increasing the demand. I think the next 3 to 5 years is going to be a real estate game, and all of us should buy. And I want to tell all my viewers that you should buy a house.
Okay, fantastic. So that is what Mr. Gopalan is saying. If you have not, please go ahead and buy. This is the right time to buy. Interest rates are record low. There is a consolidation in the market. There is a confidence in the market. The dependable developers are there in the market. Options are available there across cities, as Mr. Gopalan is saying, and government intervention is there in real estate. So there is a backup that if there is a funding backup, there is a intervention, legal backup, the support from the government. So a very positive sentiments from Mr. Srinivasan Gopalan. Mr. Dhanuka, you mentioned about NBFC crisis, and after that, the NBFC and banks, there's a gap of funding, which earlier NBFCs and banks were there. But now PE investments are, taking place, foreign and Indian, and they are showing a lot of interest in Indian real estate, especially the foreign investors. Again, what is the reason that foreign investors are showing so much interest in Indian real estate, especially the reports mentioned about asset classes such as commercial development, mixed use developments, and the alternate asset classes like warehousing, industrial, etc.
I'll go back to where I started in the first thing. So 2016 again, was a watershed year. Government came up with a lot of good reforms. The RERA implementation happened, GST happened. So though there, as I said, there would have been a temporary blip in the growth factor at that point of time. They were all long-term decisions and which has helped the industry substantially. They brought transparency. They brought a lot of control. Our developer is not trying to do now 20 projects. He's also scared of RERA, getting blacklisted of RERA. The money movement from one project to another has slowed down or kind of stopped. With much more responsibility on the developer. All this helps any foreign investor to get much more confidence when he's trying to put money into the projects in India, because a lot of them had burned their hands very badly in 2006 to 2009, which was so-called the golden era of investments in Indian foreign investment. So that is what has helped today. And if you look at it, 2016 to 2022, the foreign investment was close to $24 billion, which was almost 3 times of the preceding 5 years. And obviously there are a number of other reasons which are associated with that. India remains to be one of the largest emerging growth countries in the world today. Even post-pandemic, we are having much better and faster growth than a lot of other countries compared to developed countries like even US and China, where the growth have reduced. Our growth still remains upwards of 7% as per most of the economists right now. India has grown in last 4 5 years as one of the largest startup hubs of the world. Even if you look at US, for example, though Indians have about 1.3% of the population, 26% of the startups are by Indians. Uh, it has India, especially Bangalore, cities like Bangalore, Gurgaon, etc., are becoming a very big hub for all your IT. They have grown from the BPOs and KPOs to become more of coding, software, research and development hubs for most of the projects in the world. With the growth after pandemic, the fintech and medical startups which are there, again their startup hub, most of the work is being done out of luckily some of the Indian cities. uh, what has also happened is that a lot of pension funds, especially in US, Canada, etc., are looking for stabilized annuity income with little bit of what we call pick returns. Again, with the commercial growth, structured commercial growth across the country, which is close to 12 million for Bangalore, about 8 to 10 million for Hyderabad. Between Pune and Bombay, there is about 4 to 5 million each city. So with that happening, lot of the foreign investments which are coming, as you correctly said, is happening in commercial real estate for this kind of annuity income. And if you look, 70% of this FDI money or foreign money which is coming is mainly coming from America and Canada. And again, part of it is again back to back. If you look at it, is the pension funds. Post pandemic, we see a lot of Asian money from Singapore and basically the base being Singapore, a lot of the Asian money also coming in, but those are again towards commercial and warehousing. With pandemic and pre-pandemic, with with your Amazons, Flipkarts becoming famous, the logistics has become very very critical. India as a country has been lost, has not been a very strong logistic hub. That thing is being very much focused right now. And if you look at a lot of those companies have successfully formed, include to form logistics companies in India. And that is again for rental incomes and stable incomes. That's why warehousing, logistics, and commercial has become a key thing for foreign investments. Second thing is again going back to the NBFC crisis, backed by lowest interest rates, bond demand in residential has created a very good gap for a niche and opportunistic play for the private equity and the real estate funds. There's lack of credit money available in India right now, focusing on real estate. So these are the opportunities which have been, very nicely utilized by some of these private equity and real estate funds, whether it be called Cerebrus, Apollo, etc., who have been putting Green Oak. So they have been Oak Tree. So they have been putting large sums of money either in portfolios or directly into projects. All these factors have been some of the critical reasons of threefold increase in foreign money into India. I think as we grow, again, probably, NBFCs in a different form or local AIFs may form, which may again come back. But currently, the flavor of the season is foreign money into the country.
That's right. A lot of points that you raised. The startup India is one of the number of startups is one of the leading countries in that. It is a growing country. A lot of infrastructure is yet to be built. The urbanization that is happening at a fast pace, it makes it, again, a lucrative proposition for all these funds, investment funds, as you rightly mentioned, the pension funds, especially, which are coming in India, and the opportunities funding for PE investors, and the growth potential, as you mentioned, that e-commerce is one of the fastest growing segment in India, and the opportunities being created in these segments such as warehousing, industrial logistics, data parks, again, everyone is talking about. So a lot of growth segments in India, and that makes it, as Mr. Dhanuka says, a very lucrative market, a real estate market for foreign investors. Mr. Gopalan, we have spoken about the challenges, we have spoken about what realty sector is facing. How is Unitern Advisors supporting the realty firms? Which are the areas, the key areas? You did mention about the end-to-end solutions being provided to these developers, but what are the critical areas where Unitern Advisors is aiming to enable these developers?
So currently, looking at the current scenario, around 60% of our work is towards completion of projects, because most of them are stuck because of that. And what do we do there is we provide working capital. We manage working capital by way of doing barter deals on behalf of developers. We ensure that we sell fast so that the working capital is available for them to complete the project. So our focus currently has been in completion of projects. So we represent institutions who have appointed us to ensure that we complete the project so that they get their money back. Some of the real estate developers have appointed us to ensure that they get rid of the debt ASAP. The good thing is everyone has become practical, the institutions as well as the promoters. All of them know that the debt has to get rid of, otherwise nobody makes money. So our entire focus right now, around 60% of our focus is to liquidate stock, complete projects, and repay the debt on behalf of real estate companies. Apart from that, we are also creating our own NBFC and an AIF. Currently, we are raising these monies from outside. However, very soon, maybe 6 months time, we will have our own AIF, we will have our own NBFC, where we will be able to lend this to the developers, and we will have complete control over the project, right from sourcing to right from their checkbook, right from collections and development. So this is where our focus is going to be. And I think the market has accepted Unitern very, very well, and I want to thank them for that, because I don't think there is anybody else who is currently in this space. And we would assume that so long as we are growing, I mean, there will be others who will also come, because competition is important.
No, as you rightly said, there is a need for such kind of services of advisors to the developers, where they can guide them or direct them, as you said, that everyone is now
Sapna, one correction I'll do. We don't guide them. We actually participate and complete it on their behalf. Okay. So advisors is a wrong word. We coined it because we didn't find a better word at that point in time. We dirty our hands. We go to the site. We sit with the contractors to ensure that the project is completed. So we are not people who will just on a phone call advise them and do it. We are people who will implement it to its logical conclusion.
So you become part of that entire project.
Yes. Yeah. And the good thing is you will not see anywhere powered by Unitern or anything. We become a part of that organization, because ultimately his brand is the real brand. We are all service providers. The GDP comes from him, the developer and the institutions which lend. We are all service providers. We need to respect that.
Right. That's fantastic. I think, what Mr. Gopalan has clarified here, it's not only about guidance, it's not only about advising, but being there in the game participating in the entire process as part of the organization is what Unitern Advisors is doing, taking
So
care of
Sapna,
how
you
to.
see how much, you also see what stake we have. We are lending from our balance sheet. We
Right.
are providing raw material from our balance sheet. We are ensuring that we sell. So there is a lot of our money also in the business
Exactly.
apart from the promoter's money.
Right, right.
So we get deeply involved to ensure that there is a solution to this.
Do you see more such organizations coming in, probably, who would like to participate equally, put in their equity in the project, and
We
So
want such
Sapna,
organizations to come.
we need one more year where we will stabilize really well, and then we are welcoming the competition.
Okay, fantastic. So, Mr. Dhanuka, let's wrap up with your last comments. What are the future plans of the company in terms of its service offerings, expansion plans? How do you look at next few years, 5 years down the line?
I think a large part of it already answered by Srini. So as we said, we think we are very uniquely placed. We are not an IPC who is giving, only focusing on sales, or we are not the McKinseys of the world giving the guidance, as we say. We like to get our hand dirty. We like to fold our, the sleeves and get into the work. So that is where we decided to form this company. That was the root of the company where we wanted to do. So that is something which we are definitely going to continue. The whole idea is to create a relevant organization, create an ecosystem. As Trini was explaining, that we have the capability to provide land, JDs, etc., do the visibility. We have the capability to give you a launch strategy to what should be built, what should be priced, to start, how to get the sales done and expedite the sales. Currently, we have the capability to raise third-party money to manage the working capital of it. We provide through our balance sheet also, we provide kind of working capital by providing either through barters or through providing material. So that has to continue, and we want to build it much more. So if I have to use a scale, if I think probably we still, it's, as we discussed, it's still a 20-month-old company, and some of these businesses are maybe less than a year. So probably if we are at a scale of 3 to 4, on a 10, we would like to bring it back to about 7 to 8 at least in next 1 year. And that obviously we need to infuse a lot more capital into our material providers through our startups. We plan to create our real estate. We plan to create our NBFC, which will be primarily to fund all this. To fund for labor, to fund for material, to fund for your JDS. So that we plan to do that, because capital, ultimately land and money, are the two key raw materials of real estate. So we are also planning to set up a real estate fund, which we already worked on. Initially, it will start with plotted and last mile funding. As again Shini said, completion has to be the focus. Product is completed, it will sell. So with that focus, we are focusing on plotted and last mile funding. And the other things, increasing the material supply or providing various data implementations will do. So DM, development management, again unbranded. We respect the developer. We want to work under his brand, help him solve the problems and get whatever done. We'll be doing that. Asset management for institutions, providing capital through third party, co-investment through our fund or NBFC. These are our biggest growth plans for the next 1 year.
That's fantastic. A lot of initiatives, as Mr. Dhanuka mentioned, and most importantly, it's a young company, huge scope of growing. And as both Mr. Gopalan and Mr. Dhanuka has mentioned, building on the capabilities of the company, of the funding, providing last mile funding, development management, and in the process, in very short time, we will also be seeing an NBFC and AIF from Unitern Advisors. So thanks so much, Mr. Gopalan and Mr. Navin Dhanuka. Before we let you go, one biggest trend according to you that we are going to see in real estate probably a year or two down the line. Mr. Gopalan, what is the one biggest trend we are going to see in Indian real estate?
Growth and growth.
Okay, fantastic. Music to our ears. Mr. Dhanuka, what do you think? What is going to be the biggest
one
trend?
thing which has been little muted post-pandemic has been the commercial. I think the commercial in next 6 months are going to come back in a very big way. I see within the commercial, again, managed offices is going to be a large part of the trend. Unlike traditional offices and unlike what's so-called co-working, I see a large part of new commercial absorption will be managed offices. That definitely is happening, but commercial is again going to come back in a big way in our country. I think that's written on the wall.
Okay, fantastic. So Mr. Gopalan says growth is what we are going to see. That is going to be the biggest development in real estate. And according
so, Sapna, if you have not bought a house, buy a house now.
Fantastic. Thank you for your advice. I will definitely do that.
No doubt.
And Mr. Dhanuka is saying managed office spaces, commercial real estate is going to come back, and managed office spaces is something that is going to grow fast in next 6 months. So thank you so much, Mr. Srinivasan, Gopalan, and Mr. Navin Dhanuka from Unitern Advisors for being here with us today and sharing your views on the company's important initiatives, growth plans, the current real estate sector scenario, and the future outlook. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.